We'll put it on YouTube soon enough. I'm serious.
Podcast.
No, that's, yeah. Yeah, so I'm praying for a video editor to do that. We'll have all that down. But everybody's story is important. And so, Amos, you going to tell your story? Your guess?
What? Great.
See, part of doing life with Jesus is you get trained as he trained people, which is through apprenticeship. You just hang out with people, and then sudden events show up. So, because I had spent so much time with Amos, I didn't give him lots of notice. I told him like yesterday, and he probably didn't even check his phone because he's like a bad texter. Is that accurate to say that, Amos?
Very accurate.
You can text Amos.
I got it this morning.
It may be like a day or two, which I am a bad texter because I have too much access to the phone. So I want you to share part of your story. That way people can hear you.
Where do you start?
Wherever you
Amos.
Amos, give it up!
Poetry or something. Alright, so, well, like you said, every story.
Hey, Amos, no pressure, bro, but we're videoing this.
Awesome.
Karen.
Alright, so, well, every story is unique, and I guess that I never would, before I met Paul, I never would have thought of my story being unique. I thought it was kind of every day, because I lived in such a closed world, growing up my whole life. I grew up in the church. It was very conservative, and I was very sheltered, and I look back and I thank God for all the opportunities I had, because of that. And now I'm thanking for all the opportunities I'm getting, to experience this world around me and be a part of it, and really help make an influence for Him with my unique story apparently. And so I grew up, had Christian parents, that loved me very much, and I just thank God for them every day. And they guided me as best as they thought that was in my interest, and I don't fault them for that in any way. But I ended up, for my college career, like I said, I was very sheltered, always kind of just did what I was told, because I thought that's kind of what the Christian was supposed to do. I believe that Jesus came, died for me on the cross, and was rose again. And that was always an amazing fact for me. I never once doubted it. I just grew up with it as fact, and I guess I took it for granted that lifestyle. So I was just very complacent with the way I was living, and went to a school. Some of you may have heard of it, Bob Jones University. It's somewhat of it was a controversial school, for several reasons, and and it was just very conservative and very, I guess people call it legalistic. They're very legalistic, and I'm not saying that anyone that goes there or anyone that's a part of that is bad, because I think really that they have a certain mind or a vision in their mind, and they think they're doing right. So at the time that's what I thought too. And the more I found that I was being pressed to conform to these rules and just this, I guess, just follow this certain mindset, the way they were just kind of forcing it, the more I felt compelled to break out of it. And I saw my friends constantly just kind of bucking it just because they didn't want to be there. There was no freedom in that life, and so when you don't have freedom, you want to break out and act out and do things that probably are not the most pleasing to God. And so when I left there after 2 years and sat out of school for a while, just God kind of led me that way, and I kind of then just kind of started bouncing around, for about a period of a year and a half of my life, and went to some places that I'm not too proud of. But then God, as always, is loving and brings us back to Him, through various means. And that, I was able to go to Passion Conference 2007. That's where I met my wife. I ended up, yeah, so God definitely had his hand in that, but right before that it was cool because I got to work with a bunch of college students, and we were trying to do kind of a grassroots movement in our community and put together this, big fall festival. And so I got to be a part of a leadership team and do that with them, and that was just one of the most amazing experiences. And as a thanks, the church that we did it for sent us to Passion, and so then I met my wife, and then things kind of just started snowballing from there. Now I'm down in southern Louisiana in a nice warm winter climate.
From bad.
From bad, yes. I love the food down here. I want some popcorn. I want some shrimp and stuff right now. Anyway, yeah, crawfish, I guess. I don't like killing them. Anyway, so I met Paul. And it was kind of weird. I worked at First Federal Bank, and he came through, and all the other workers were complaining about how his deposits were. And so then I got invited by some friends to go to a Super Bowl party, and lo and behold, it was at Paul's house. So, nothing just happens. There's always a purpose. And,
tell him which deposits it was. Did I create the?
I don't think you created
It wasn't my deposits. It was the employee.
The employee, okay, but it was from his
They're
business.
still mine.
At any rate, so got to meet Paul, and then started hanging out. Found out he went to Trinity and everything, was the college minister there, and so we just started hanging out and communicating. We started meeting Wednesday night at El Tapatías, and he would.
El Tap. Come on.
Oh, love it. Thank you for introducing that. So that was good. So anyway, I remember one lesson in particular. I'm probably going to butcher it really bad, but it was about why are there all these rules that we have to follow? Are they arbitrary? And he explained how they weren't arbitrary. It's because it all goes back to kind of being God is love. God is a God of order, things like that. And I wish I could remember it better how you said it, because you phrased it perfectly that night, and that was kind of like another little light bulb just clicking on up there. I'm like, what? That's so true. And where sometimes I may have, like in the past, I may have had hard times accepting other people for things that they did or whatever. I found myself able to let go of some of those things and start, actually showing love to people, and not this harsh hostility. Because in a way, I'm not comparing myself to Paul in the least bit, because he was another human, and God used him, and I hope God can use me as much as he used Paul, not Paul Pettit, but Paul in the Bible. Because Paul, he knew the law. He grew up. He was, a chief among them. And he did whatever it was. And I kind of felt like here I was, grew up my whole life, had all this head knowledge, and knew a lot, but didn't really experience it or know what to do with it until God made this great revelation. So, I was just, like I said, when that light came on, it allowed me to be a lot more patient, a lot more forgiving of others, and just thank God for that. So that's kind of been my story as of late, and to be continued.
Come on, man.
Take a seat. So what we have here is a band of everyday missionaries. I don't know if that's the final word we're going to use, but if you look at Amos's life, Amos has been shining the light of Jesus by working hard and being the best banker he can be, which happens to be the best banker in his building and where he works, right? So Amos, you work harder than that's my objective. I won't brag on you. You work hard, you don't slough it off, and people are recognizing that, right? He's got a coworker named Trey, and Trey has been influenced by Amos. Trey, this is my box. This is kind of like my everyday missionary for preparation box, right? So I am a dispenser of Jesus action. So I don't do this for people that don't know him, right? So I met so I'll skip that. But so this, I've been keeping this because it was in a pile in my truck and it kept sliding around, so I decided to put it in a box. You know, thanks to Patty, we have all these boxes. So I gave Amos this book, right? Right? And so then what did you do with it?
I read it and then
Did you tried to give it back to me, right?
Yeah, I tried giving it, once I finished it, I tried giving it back to Paul. And he said, no, you've gotta keep it going, because the gospel doesn't just stop with us. It's supposed to kind of flow through us and go out.
That's right. So you gave it to
Trey,
who you work with, who goes to another church, and Trey is kind of like
he was a new Christian. He was grown up in a church. I guess not a very strong church environment, but he was familiar with it, but didn't really know.
Yeah. So Amos has been doing life, just normal Amos stuff. He didn't do supernatural things. He didn't leap tall buildings with a single bound. Sorry, bro. But he's been living the life of an everyday missionary at his workplace, which is one of the places he goes. So Elizabeth asked for this book, so did you bring it to her? Right on. So this is another thing of an everyday missionary. Elizabeth, right there. I'm sorry. I don't know if you're going to show that. And then come back. I'm sorry I sent you back. Right. Sometimes I forget to pray over those who share their story before we meet together. So since I get the joy of getting to meet Amos somewhat regularly, twice a month, so that we hang out, I'm going to do that today. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So Lord, I agree with all my brothers and sisters in here, thanking you for Amos's life. Thank you, Lord, for the random occurrences that you put. That Amos went to Passion 07, sat next to this girl, struck up a conversation. She's from Louisiana, he's from Indiana, and then they get married. And Lord, I know that there's nothing accidental about the way you work. There's nothing accidental about the random, seems to us, meetings that you have for us, where someone's just walking into work and then meets a new friend and they look at each other and have a conversation, and your truth gets in the mix there, and light and hope come out of that. So I just look up to Amos as a man seeking to know you and to use all the experiences of his life to be more like Jesus and to show that to the people he spends time with. Thank you for Amos, Lord, and I'm just so grateful that he is one on mission because Jesus is alive. Amen. All right, thanks, man. So Chuck has a box, right? Chuck has like